Hi there, I'm Eitan, and welcome to WiX Fixer. This is Velo 101, or Learning JavaScript with WiX Code. And today we're going to be writing our first lines of code that make a change to a WiX element. So let's get started. Okay, so for this demonstration, I have added a text box to my website in the editor. And if you're not familiar with how to do that, that's just this plus over here, add elements. And then I selected a text, and you can choose any one of these text box over here. And what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be changing the contents of this text box using Velo code and reading the contents of the text box using Velo code. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So first of all, I just want to show you some added things that you have here when you're using Velo with regards to WiX elements. And if you take a look here on the bottom right, so this, just to remind you, this is our code editor, and you get to that by clicking up here on the top left, Dev Mode. And here on the bottom right, we have some additional kind of backdoor information about WiX elements that we wouldn't have if we were not in dev mode. And the first one we have here is the ID. And you can think of that as the name of this particular element. And on each page, every element will have a different ID. So you have to have unique IDs. And that's why as we add text elements, maybe it'll be text 6, text 7, text 8. But you'll also see that we're going to want to create our own custom names for these elements that will be recognizable to us inside of our code. Because once we have a bunch of elements in our code and the names are not recognizable, and it's just text 6, text 7, text 121, then it becomes very hard to write code. And one of the keys to writing good code is readability. Here on the bottom, we have some more things that we're going to touch on in later videos, which is default values and event handlers. But for now, our main focus here is the ID. So I'm going to change the ID of this element to something that's a little more readable to us. And I'm just going to call this hello world, because that's what I'm going to be using this text box for. And you can see that as soon as I change it here, it changes the name over here in the editor as well. Now what we need to do in order to interact with this element using Velo is to select it. And in order to select an element using Velo, we use $W, open parentheses, open quotation marks, pound sign, and then the name or the ID of the element. So you can see already that it has hello world up here on the top because that's one of the elements on my page. So I'm going to select that right here. And in order to do anything with this element that I just selected, I'm going to put a period or a dot, and then you'll see this long list pops up, and these are all the things that we can do with our element. Okay, so these are built in, they're called methods or properties. So methods would be things that you can do, and properties would be just information that can either be changed or read about the element. And today I'm just going to be using this text property. Okay, it might also be called attribute. So this text attribute or property is basically the contents of this text box. And I can use this dot text to either read the contents or to change the contents. And to change them, what I would do is I would use an equal sign, and then I would write out what I want to be in the text box. And if you remember from last time, when we're writing out text in JavaScript, also known as a string, we're going to use quotation marks to tell our code that this is text. So I'm going to open quotation marks, and you can see it already puts 2 out for me. And inside, I'm just going to write hello world. Okay. And basically now what will happen is as soon as I preview my website, you'll see that instead of I am a paragraph, click here, etc., it'll actually say hello world because that is what I told it to show using code. So I'm going to go back to the editor, and one more thing I'm going to show you is how to read what's in the text box. So I'm going to use the console.log that we learned last time, and I'm going to write console dot log. And then inside of this log, I'm going to select the element. So hello world dot text. And basically now this log will read, quote unquote, what is inside this text box. So I'm going to just go into preview mode again. And you'll see that here it says I'm a paragraph, click here to add your own text. But on our screen it says hello world. So why does this make sense? If I go back to the editor, this highlights a very important part about Velo and JavaScript, that the code executes line after line. So if console.log hello world.text comes before we set the text to hello world, then it's going to log what's in there, which is what is set inside of our editor. But if we would just copy paste this line of text and put it right before the other line, then you'll see now, if I preview my code, inside of the console.log, it'll actually say hello world, because first we set our text to hello world and then we created the log. Okay, so order of code in JavaScript is key, and that's going to be something very important to remember later on. So just to recap what we did today, we did our first manipulations on an element in the editor using code. And what we did is we tapped into the text property and we both set it and read it using Velo. I hope you like this video. I hope you're learning a lot. If you do, please like and subscribe because there's going to be more videos in this series, and I hope to see you next time.